I'm Cooper, fresh out of college with an animation degree and a student loan debt that could fund a mid-sized coup in a banana republic. I met Alice at my buddy Jason's house party, which I almost skipped because, social interaction is best done from behind a keyboard. So I'm standing in the kitchen, clinging to a lukewarm Bud Light like it's a safety blanket, trying to dodge another dude in a vest talking about crypto, when this brunette walks up and starts laughing. At me. At my stories. And not the normal, you're weird, laugh, but full-on snort laughing at my tragic tales of rendering deadlines and clients who think, make it more dynamic, is actual feedback. She was 21, worked part-time at some boutique that smelled like lavender and poor financial decisions, and had that whole girl next door vibe going. If the girl next door was cast in a Netflix teen drama and had 40K Instagram followers for posting blurry latte pics. And damn if she didn't treat my awkward, self-deprecating, borderline obsolete programmer humor like I was opening for Chappelle. She'd pack me lunch with cute notes, stuff like, hope your day is as great as your keyframes, and remembered every weird thing I said. Like, one time I mentioned I used to play guitar and thought about picking it back up. Boom. A week later, she shows up with a set of strings and this big excited look like she just rescued a kitten. The first few months? Honestly, perfect. Too perfect. You know when a used car salesman tells you that the Camry with 200,000 miles was driven only by an old lady to church? Yeah, that kind of perfect. I was just waiting for the engine light to flick on. My buddy Dylan, he sniffed it out before I could finish my second sandwich in love. The man's got a sixth sense for spotting red flags. PhD in craziology. He dropped these little grenades during lunch at work. Yo, Coop, he said, stabbing his salad like it insulted his mother. You've been off lately. Off? Yeah. You're smiling. Hanging out less. Laughing at your own jokes more than usual. I don't like it. I told him maybe I was just happy. Maybe Alice got me. Or maybe she's playing a character, he said, narrowing his eyes like he was on an episode of CSI, gaslighting. Watch how she acts when she thinks you're not paying attention. Real people don't find dad jokes that funny. And okay, yeah, I do make a lot of dad jokes. But come on, someone laughing at, I tell you a joke about UDP, but you might not get it? That's not appreciation. That's performance art. Then there was Logan. I adopted Logan about 6 months before I met Alice. A big OL German Shepherd mix who looked like he could kill a man, but mostly liked licking peanut butter off Kongs and sleeping in sunspots. Loyal, sweet, and way smarter than I am. Logan had this unspoken talent for reading people. Like doggy lie detector level instincts. With Alice, he tolerated her. Bare minimum. He wasn't hostile or growly. Just wary. Like she might suddenly start chanting in Latin and float off the ground. Every time she'd pet him, he'd accept it with the enthusiasm of a cat in a bath and then trot over to me like, you saw that, right? We good. She started saying things like, I think Logan's kind of antisocial, while he sat 5 feet away glaring at her like a disappointed stepdad. Maybe he just needs time, I said, giving Logan a scratch behind the ears. I think he needs training, she replied one day, sipping her oat milk chai like she just solved a major behavioral crisis. And I just stood there thinking, yeah, maybe he does. Or maybe you're just a Bond villain wrapped in Urban Outfitters. The audacity of criticizing my dog, a dog who had never so much as growled at a toddler or a pizza delivery guy, was incredible. Logan was basically the canine Gandhi, and here Alice was, treating him like he was one missed walk away from mauling a school bus. But did I push back? Did I say, hey, maybe the issue isn't my emotionally intelligent rescue dog, but your weird step-forward smile and unsolicited coconut oil opinions? Nope. I was too whipped. Like, next level, brain on vacation whipped. The kind of whipped where if she'd told me Logan needed therapy, I'd probably have started Googling canine counselors near me. In my defense, the sex was phenomenal. Not just good, religion questioning good. Like, maybe the Mormons are wrong, and this is the promised land. She had this way of looking at me like I was the only man who'd ever understood her. Like her entire life had been one long, sad playlist until my awkward ass showed up with bad posture and a love for Blender plugins. 3 months in, her stuff started showing up at my place like it was smuggled in under cover of darkness. At first, it was cute. A toothbrush. Then some leggings. Harmless. But it escalated fast. One day, I opened the medicine cabinet, and it looked like Sephora had used it as a grenade testing range. My shower, previously home to a noble, lonely 3-in-1 bottle of soap shampoo conditioner that was also dish detergent, suddenly it was wall-to-wall serums, exfoliants, conditioners, masks, stuff with ingredients that sounded like they belonged in a spell book, not a hygiene routine. I get out of the shower and ask, hey, Alice, do you know what glycolic acid resurfacing foam does? She'd blink at me like I was a caveman trying to understand fire. It unclogs your pores and balances your skin barrier, babe. Cool, cool, I'd say, while wondering if I still had a face or if it had been chemically exfoliated into the void. But I didn't push back. I chalked it up to coupledom. Shared space, right? I mean, her coffee mug next to mine, her shoes by the door, her laptop charger permanently replacing mine in the power strip. It felt domestic, cozy, like slowly drowning in a scented candle. It wasn't until later I realized I'd been love-bombed harder than a spam folder during a Bitcoin scam wave. But back then, I thought I was just winning at life. Cute girl, homemade sandwiches, lots of sex, and a loofah I didn't ask for. The first crack in the facade came in month 3. We were at Target, which was already a red flag, because she treated Target runs like spiritual pilgrimages, and I just wanted toilet paper. We're walking through the home goods aisle. She's debating whether we need a 10th throw pillow, when some random girl from her high school spots her. Oh my God, Alice. Wow, how are you? Alice smiles that perfect white smile. Hey girl, long time. They hug, and then the girl, clearly trying to make conversation, asks, so, are you still with Grayson? Cue the vibe shift. Alice's entire demeanor flips like a horror movie jump scare. Oh, she says, her tone sharpening just a touch. Grayson had anger issues. He couldn't handle a strong woman. It got toxic. The other girl looks confused, like she just got assigned a twist ending she didn't audition for. Really? Huh. I mean, he seemed like a pretty chill guy. He's engaged now, actually. Alice freezes for exactly half a second, like a buffering YouTube video, then recovers with a bright, fake laugh. Oh, people change. Good for him. Later, I asked about it. We're in the car, and I'm doing my best not to crash while trying to read her expression. She shrugged. He was just some guy with commitment issues. It didn't matter. But the way she rewrote that history on the spot, like she was submitting the final draft to the academy, should have had me sprinting. But no, I was young, dumb, and hopelessly distracted by the siren call of spontaneous morning sex. Then came month 4. That's when the psychological warfare started. Nothing big, nothing dramatic, just little comments that sounded normal but felt like paper cuts dipped in lemon juice. And it started with my friends. Alice would casually toss out little nuggets like, I just don't get why Dylan's always so negative, usually while stirring pasta or scrolling Pinterest for throw pillow arrangements. And to be fair, she wasn't technically wrong. Dylan was negative. Dude's idea of optimism was, it could be worse, but it probably will be. But he was also my best friend and the only person in my life who didn't sugarcoat anything, including when I was being a dumbass. Like when I got offered more creative control at the studio and I was high on my own delusions of autonomy. Dylan sat me down like he was about to tell me Santa wasn't real. Dude, he said, they're giving you creative control the same way a kid gets a steering wheel in the back seat of a car. You can turn it all you want. The direction's already set. Was it harsh? Sure, but it was real, and I appreciated that. Or at least, I did before Alice rebranded it as sabotage. He's so pessimistic, she'd say while we were eating dinner. Usually some lovingly over-seasoned kale thing she saw on a wellness blog. Like, can't he just be happy for you? Why does he always have to find the downside? I'd shrug. He's just looking out for me. That's what friends do. But babe, she'd say, lowering her voice like she was about to stage an intervention, you're always stressed after talking to him. I just think you deserve people who lift you up, not bring you down. And see, that's the genius of it. She wasn't saying, drop your best friend. She was just concerned about my emotional well-being. What a caring girlfriend, right? Just trying to protect her fragile little creative sponge from the toxic vibes of realism. Then she set her sights on my family. Now, I love my mom. She calls, like, twice a week. Checks in, tells me about the neighbor's cat drama, asks if I'm eating real food. Normal mom stuff. But Alice made it sound like I was still being breastfed in between conference calls. You know, she said one evening as I hung up the phone, I really think you need to establish boundaries. Boundaries? Yeah, you're an adult with your own life now. She doesn't need to know what you're doing every second. She literally asked if I'm still using that air fryer she got me. I know, she said in that sweet, rational tone that makes you feel insane for disagreeing. But don't you think it's weird how she always needs to check in? Like still. Again, she didn't say stop talking to your mom. Just maybe silence her calls and let her slowly fade into the background like an unused side quest. Then came the gym comments. Now, I don't live at the gym. I'm not one of those guys with a protein shake for drip and an Instagram dedicated to calf progress. I drive 15 minutes, I lift heavy things, I leave. But to Alice, that drive was apparently the same as disappearing into the Bermuda Triangle. One day I came home and she was waiting with that look. I'm smiling, but this is actually a pitch look. I was thinking, she said, rubbing my shoulders like a Bond villain lulling me into compliance. We should get a Peloton and do couples yoga. It could be our thing. Yoga? I blinked. You mean like stretching and breathing aggressively? I found this super cute couples workout on Pinterest, she chirped. We'd actually see each other instead of you disappearing for 2 hours. It's not disappearing, I said, peeling her hands off me. It's the gym. You know where I am. I know, she said, tilting her head like a disappointed guidance counselor. But wouldn't it be nice to share that part of your life with me? Every comment sounded reasonable on its own. Harmless. Thoughtful even. But when you line them up, Dylan, my mom, the gym, they weren't suggestions. They were slow, sneaky amputations. Little slices off the parts of my life that didn't include her. The controlling behavior ramped up slower than Windows 95 booting up, which is to say, I saw it coming and still did absolutely nothing about it. At first, it was harmless stuff. Cute, even. She wanted to know my schedule. Okay, that's normal. I figured she was just excited to spend time together or trying to plan her essential oil empire around my meetings. Then came the, why did your work meeting run late? Questions. Not accusatory, just concerned. Like a passive-aggressive HR rep from hell. Next thing I knew, if I didn't reply to her texts within 10 minutes, even during business hours, I'd get follow-ups like, are you okay? You usually text back by now. Not sure why I'm being ignored. When I'd finally text back something like, sorry, was in a meeting, she'd reply with, I just worry when I don't hear from you. What if something happened? How would I know? Which sounds sweet on paper, right? Like she's just a concerned girlfriend watching out for her man. But in practice, it was like dating the TSA, constantly checking in, asking where I'd been, what I'd been doing, and if I had anything to declare. The concern trolling was next level. Every privacy invasion got framed as care. Every unanswered message became an emotional crime scene. If I didn't respond fast enough, I wasn't just distracted, I was emotionally neglecting her. I swear she could have taught a masterclass on guilt trip jujitsu. Even work started to notice the crazy creeping into my professional life. Mark, my boss, a guy so private he once refused to tell HR what his favorite cake was for his own birthday, called me into his office. You okay at home? He asked, trying to make it sound like he wasn't deeply uncomfortable discussing emotions before 5 p.m. I gave him the standard male deflection. Just relationship stuff. Nothing major. He looked unconvinced. I'm not trying to pry, Cooper, but you've left early 3 times in 2 weeks. And the phone calls during client meetings? That's not like you. He was right. Alice had started calling during the workday. Not for emergencies, mind you. Unless I saw a squirrel and thought of you, counts as a crisis. If I didn't pick up, cue the rapid-fire texts. Why are you ignoring me? Did I do something wrong? I just missed your voice, is that so bad? But the real head trip? Her emotional thermostat. She could go from sweet and cuddly, like, let's bake cookies and cuddle through an indie movie sweet, to hysterical Meryl Streep in a divorce drama tears in seconds. She had emotional whiplash down to a science. Didn't want to skip basketball with the guys? Wow. So sports are more important than your girlfriend. Cool. Suggested we not go to a $200 per person restaurant she saw on Instagram? You're financially controlling me. I deserve to live my dreams. And God forbid I suggested she get a full-time job. Wow. I can't believe you don't support my entrepreneurial journey. Her entrepreneurial journey, by the way, was selling overpriced essential oils to girls she hadn't talked to since sophomore year, who were clearly too polite or too Midwestern to block her MLM pitches. And the fights? Oh man, the fights all followed the same pattern. Alice had this uncanny ability to manufacture a crisis out of absolutely nothing. Like, she could spin an entire relationship-ending soap opera out of me using the wrong emoji. Seriously, one time I replied to "I miss you" with a single heart emoji instead of a double heart emoji and got a 6-paragraph breakdown about emotional detachment. The formula was always the same. Fabricate a problem. Blow it up into an existential meltdown. Threatened to leave unless I apologized for my fictional war crimes. Watch me grovel like a Disney sidekick. And I did. Every single time. Like an absolute moron, I'd panic and apologize. I thought, this is just normal relationship drama, right? You know, emotional hostage negotiations with someone who looks hot in yoga pants. Turns out, I wasn't dating a woman. I was negotiating a ceasefire with a terrorist in eyeliner. Dylan, of course, wasn't having it. He kept dropping truth bombs with the subtlety of a sledgehammer. You've missed the last 3 poker nights, he said over one of our increasingly rare solo dinners. I've been busy, I muttered, checking my phone. He raised an eyebrow. When's the last time we hung out without you checking your phone every 5 minutes? I don't do that, dude. You've looked at your phone 12 times since we sat down. We've been here 20 minutes. I wanted to argue, but the screen time report already had me on trial. And the thing is, each individual red flag didn't seem like a big deal. A skipped hangout here, a weird emotional reaction there. But stack them together? I was basically living in a relationship-themed escape room built entirely out of guilt trips and weaponized intimacy. And the breaking point? Oh, it was on the horizon, looming like a jump scare with contour. Month 8 is when Alice's mask finally slipped. And the catalyst? Her best friend Kathy. Kathy, bless her delusional little heart, was the high priestess of toxic femininity. The kind of girl who reads one Medium article about narcissistic abuse and then starts diagnosing everyone's boyfriend like she's Dr. Phil with a vape. She'd been through 4 relationships in 2 years, each one ending in restraining orders, angry Facebook posts, or a just girly things quote over a picture of a wine glass. Somehow, this qualified her to be the Judge Judy of my relationship. Anytime she came over, she'd chain smoke on my balcony like a film noir villain and casually drop lines like, "You know, men who really love their girlfriends don't need reminders to text back." Or, "Wow, must be nice to have a guy who's emotionally available sometimes." And Alice would lap it up like it was divine scripture. "Kathy thinks you don't value me enough," she told me one night while watching The Bachelor like it was a training video. "Oh yeah," I said, trying not to scream into a couch pillow. "She says guys who really love their girlfriends make them feel like priorities." I took a breath. "I do make you a priority." She squinted. "Yeah, but not the priority. There's a difference." What the hell does that even mean? Was there a ranking system I wasn't aware of? Did I need to get my feelings laminated and filed under urgent? Kathy's influence was radioactive. She turned every normal moment into a problem to be dissected, every conversation into a loyalty test. It was like being stuck in a group project with someone who thinks love languages is a legal contract. Everything I did was suddenly a test I was failing. It all came to a head on what should have been a chill Saturday. I was in my sweats, Logan curled up next to me like a furry, judgmental pillow, and we were halfway through a true crime docuseries about a guy who faked his own death to avoid alimony. You know, the kind of feel-good content that really brings couples together. Then, mid-episode, right when the guy was digging his fake grave behind a Denny's, Alice grabs the remote and hits pause. No warning, just slams the brakes on murder content and turns to me with that grave expression that always meant the vibes were about to go straight to hell. "We need to talk." "Great." She sits up, crosses her arms like she's the judge, jury, and emotional executioner, and hits me with, "Kathy and I were talking about our relationship." Oh boy. Here we go. And we both agree, Dylan is toxic. She said it like she was unveiling the results of a lab test. "We found trace amounts of sarcasm and male independence. Sorry, it's terminal." "Kathy thinks Dylan is poison," she added, like that woman's opinion had any kind of legal authority. And honestly, I agree. He's always making little comments, trying to turn you against me. I blinked. "Alice, Dylan's been my friend since college. We talk, yeah. And we both agree, Kathy's a bitch. If we're going to have a conversation about our relationship, it should be between us, not run through your chain-smoking oracle of bitterness. You always take his side over mine." "His side?" I said, already exhausted. "There are no sides here, Alice. That's not how friendships work." "See, you're doing it again." Her voice hit that pitch only dogs and emotionally fragile boyfriends can hear. Logan's ears went full airplane mode. "You care more about what Dylan thinks than what I need from you." I rubbed my temples. "Okay. What exactly do you need from me?" That's when she dropped the bomb. The sentence that could launch 1,000 therapy sessions. "You need to choose. Me or him. I'm not sharing you anymore." And just like that, click. Something in my brain flipped. Like when you realize the check engine light isn't just being dramatic this time. This wasn't love. This was ownership. I wasn't her boyfriend. I was a human Tamagotchi she could guilt into staying charged. "That's not how this works," I said, voice flat. Calm. Like I was disarming a very dramatic bomb. "Yes, it is," she snapped. "If you love me, you'll choose me. That's what people do in real relationships." "No, Alice," I said deadpan. "That's what people do in hostage situations." Her face twisted like I just called her a Kardashian knockoff. "You're being cruel. I'm asking for basic loyalty from my boyfriend. You're asking me to cut off my best friend because your ego can't handle him existing. That's not loyalty. That's control." "I'm not controlling," she said through clenched teeth. "I just want to be your priority. You want to be my only option," I shot back. "There's a difference." Cue the waterworks. Those classic manipulative tears that had successfully gaslit me into apologizing for owning socks in the past. "How can you be so cold?" she sobbed. "Don't you love me at all?" "I thought I did," I said. "Turns out I love the version of you that didn't make ultimatums." That did it. She leapt off the couch like a banshee being ejected from an exorcism. "Fine," she screamed. "If that's how you feel, then we should break up. We're done. Don't come crawling back when you realize what you lost." I stood up slowly, calm as a monk on Benadryl. I agree, I said. Thanks for making this easy. The look on her face was priceless. Like someone had just explained that Santa wasn't real, and neither was her victim complex. Wait, what? She blinked, stunned. You said choose you or Dylan, else we are done. So, I choose that we are done, I said calmly, like I was reading from a weather report. I'm accepting your decision. Like an adult. That short-circuited her. I started gathering her stuff while she just stood there with her mouth doing this gasping fish routine. She clearly expected a grand gesture. Some graveling. Oh, please don't leave me. You're my whole world moment. Sorry, wrong rom-com. I headed straight for the bathroom, grabbed a garbage bag, and started sweeping her products in. Lavender body scrub, overpriced serums, that cursed loofah she bought for me that looked like it had a vendetta. Into the bag they went, one by one, like evicting bad decisions. You can't just... She sputtered, finally finding her voice. You're supposed to fight for us. I turned, holding a bottle of shampoo like I was about to deliver a TED Talk. Fight for what? And with who, Alice? The privilege of walking on eggshells in my own apartment? The joy of defending my best friend every time that bitch Kathy feels like stirring the pot. But I love you, she whined, voice cracking like it had been dipped in crocodile tears. Screw your love, I don't need it, I said, dropping the shampoo in the bag with a satisfying thud. The back pedal began instantly, like she'd slipped on an emotional treadmill. I didn't mean it. I was upset. You can't throw away 8 months over one fight. No, I am throwing away 8 months over a lifelong friendship. She switched tactics. Okay, I'll compromise. Dylan can come around, sometimes. I blinked, impressed by the sheer audacity. Who do you think you are to allow me? Screw you and the high horse you ride on, and that bitch Kathy. Like I said, we are done. She started spiraling. Tears, rage, back to tears, like a broken emotional thermostat trying to load every setting at once. You're being a complete shit. This isn't you. I zipped the garbage bag shut and smiled. Actually, this is exactly me when someone threatens to leave unless I cut off my friends. Surprise. Then came the final boss-level move. She squared up, arms crossed like she was issuing a royal decree. Fine. I'm taking Logan with me. I've been taking care of him more than you anyway. I swear I almost dislocated something laughing. You're taking my dog? The dog I adopted 6 months before I met you? The dog who literally hides when you try to pet him? She didn't flinch. I feed him. You fed him maybe 5 times. Total. And only when I texted you, mid-meeting, begging. Every time you walk him, he comes back looking like he's seen combat. He loves me. Logan, I called, still smiling. My boy, my loyal, emotionally intelligent, saint of a dog, looked at her, then looked at me, then trotted over and sat right by my feet, like he was casting his vote. Even my dog has better judgment than I gave him credit for. I said that out loud, scratching behind Logan's ears while he looked up at me like, you finally figured it out, dumbass. The rest? Just noise. Crying, threats, more guilt-tripping than a Catholic grandma with a bingo addiction. But I was done. Emotionally logged out. Packed her stuff with the efficiency of a man possessed, if the possession was by pure, unfiltered clarity. She called Kathy mid-breakdown. Put her on speaker like she was summoning her emotional support demon. I guess when your manipulation attempts are flopping, you call in the ringer. Kathy arrived a few minutes later. Cooper, this is exactly what I told Alice would happen. Kathy chimed in with that trademark smugness only found in people who think being insufferable is a personality trait. Oh, look, I said, Kathy's weighing in. The woman who's been single longer than the Sahara's been dry. Giving relationship advice like it's not the blind leading the emotionally blind. You don't get to talk to my friend like that. Kathy snapped. I gestured around the chaos. Your friend just tried to steal my dog. Maybe put the energy into finding her a therapist instead of backing up her villain origin story. And Kathy, screw you, bitch. The tantrum went on for 3 hours. Crying, yelling, theatrics that would have gotten her kicked out of a soap opera for being too dramatic. But eventually, finally, mercifully, she left, with Kathy glaring at me like I just drowned a basket of kittens. That night, Dylan came over. We drank, played some games, and for the first time in months, no one was side-eyeing me over how many chips I ate or how long I laughed at a meme. I realized just how much of myself I'd given up. Friends, hobbies, basic freedom to breathe without getting psychoanalyzed like I was a lab rat in her emotional experiment. But Alice? Oh no, Alice wasn't done. She hadn't even hit her final form yet. Thinking it was over after packing her stuff was like thinking the Titanic just bumped into a pool noodle. Within 24 hours, she and Kathy launched a character assassination campaign that would make political smear teams stop and say, whoa, take it down a notch. They went straight to social media, because nothing screams emotional maturity quite like airing your relationship grievances in front of 700 followers and your aunt from Florida. Alice's first post was a masterpiece of passive-aggressive victim playing. She posted some black and white selfie with a caption that read like it came from a rejected Hallmark movie script. Sometimes you give your all, and it's still not enough for someone who never deserved you. Years of love. Thrown away for toxic friendships, hashtag narcissistic abuse, hashtag he wasn't who I thought, hashtag toxic men, hashtag healing journey. Years of love. We dated for 8 months. According to Alice's historical revisionism, we apparently met in a past life during the Crusades and fell in love over scrolls and incense. She must have been Cleopatra and I was just some peasant boy who didn't appreciate her enough. But hey, it got traction. 73 likes. 41 comments. Mostly from girls with sunflower profile pictures and usernames like @moonchildsage444 who don't know me from a can of paint, but were ready to support their queen with fire emojis and "you deserve better babe" chants like they were storming the Bastille. And then came the real show, Kathy's Facebook manifesto. A 5-paragraph, caps-optional rant titled, "To the girl who deserved so much more." I swear, I've seen shorter college theses. She painted Alice like a war-torn survivor and me like the villain from every mid-budget Netflix thriller. There were poetic flourishes about watching her best friend wither under manipulation and the slow erosion of light from her eyes. Meanwhile, the comments section turned into a digital coliseum. Strangers who had never even seen my face were lining up to throw metaphorical tomatoes. You'd think I pushed Alice into a volcano instead of just asking her to maybe stop gaslighting me about pet custody. They didn't mention my name directly, because that would require courage, but anyone who knew us could connect the dots. Subtle like a sledgehammer. But that wasn't enough. No, these two didn't just stop at social media virtue signaling. They went scorched earth. Like, Civil War burning your crops level of scorched. Kathy started spreading rumors that I was psychologically abusive, that I had anger issues, that I threatened Alice and was stalking her. All while claiming to be some kind of trauma-informed guru, posting about recognizing abuser patterns while actively abusing my reputation. Each retelling got wilder. Apparently, I now scream at women in public, isolate them from their friends, and love bomb like a cult recruiter. Meanwhile, the fact that Alice tried to turn me into a social hermit got scrubbed from the narrative like it was too inconvenient for her victim arc. Then, 3 days after the breakup, she showed up at my animation studio. Uninvited. Unhinged. Like some deranged stalker from a Lifetime movie. She told reception she was my girlfriend and needed to give me something urgently. Our receptionist Lily called me down, sounding like she'd just witnessed a raccoon crawl out of a toilet. "Your ex is here," she muttered, eyes wide. "Says it's important." Important like a fire drill? Or important like her aura told her we were still spiritually bonded? I sighed and headed downstairs, pulling out my phone like I was stepping into a courtroom drama. As soon as I saw her in the lobby, clutching a suspiciously neat envelope and blinking way too fast, I hit record. She noticed the phone instantly. Of course she did. "I'm not here to cause trouble," she said, pitching her voice soft and cracked like a soap opera widow. I miss you so much." I didn't even look up from my screen. "We broke up. You need to leave." "But I love you," she whispered dramatically, as if we were rehearsing a scene from The Notebook, deranged edition. Doesn't that mean anything? Yeah, it meant security had to escort her out while she kept up the wounded bird act. I half expected her to clutch her chest and fall to the floor wailing, "Why God, why?" Once she was gone, the office vibe turned weird. My coworkers walked past my desk like I was radioactive. You'd think I'd punted a kitten into oncoming traffic. No one said it aloud. But the looks were all, "How could you hurt such a delicate flower?" But that was just the warm-up act. The social media campaign escalated faster than a celebrity death hoax. Kathy went full keyboard warrior mode and started naming me directly. Detailed stories, fictional, of course, about Cooper M. and his long-standing patterns of emotional abuse. Apparently, I'd controlled Alice's finances, we didn't even have a shared Venmo, tracked her phone, and threatened to destroy her life if she left me. I half expected to be accused of war crimes next. None of it was true, obviously. But creative minds create creative lies, and hers was basically fan fiction with a body count. The post got shared 50 times before I'd finished brushing my teeth. My DMs, flooded with messages from women I didn't know, calling me trash and saying they hoped I died alone or got canceled so hard I'd have to live in a cave and eat bugs. My Instagram became a digital war zone. Even my food pics weren't safe. I posted a photo of a sushi platter, and someone commented, "Abuser roll with a side of gaslighting, I see." But wait, it got worse. Alice's mom, Ruby, Decided to enter the chat like the drunk aunt at Thanksgiving who thinks boundaries are just a myth invented by millennials. She called my mother. Yes, my actual mother. On the phone. Like it was 1993. She told her I was emotionally abusive and needed to make amends, or she'd take things further. My mom, bless her New Jersey soul, was not having it. She told Ruby, calmly, I assume, since no police were called, that if her daughter couldn't handle being dumped like an adult, that was a her problem, not a him problem. My son is not responsible for your daughter's emotional regulation, she snapped, probably while folding laundry or loading a dishwasher like a queen. She finished with, also, I never liked Alice anyway. Mic dropped, but Ruby didn't go quietly. Oh no. She started calling my studio and posting in local Facebook groups with titles like, Warning, Predatory Young Man in Midtown. She made me sound like some trenchcoat-wearing creeper who lurks outside frozen yogurt shops looking for heartbreak to harvest. Eventually, Mark, my boss, the one with the permanently stressed eyebrows, called me into his office. Again, this time he looked like someone had just told him his retirement fund was invested entirely in Beanie Babies. I'm getting phone calls, he said slowly, about you being some kind of abuser. He stared at me like I was about to burst into song and confess. Then came the dreaded line. What the hell is going on? I explained the whole situation to Mark. Calmly, clearly, like I wasn't the center of a digital witch hunt. I showed him the posts, the messages, the screenshots that could fill a courtroom binder thicker than a college physics textbook. He looked relieved that I wasn't secretly the Zodiac killer, but also genuinely pissed. This is affecting our business, he said, rubbing his temples like I'd personally given him a migraine. I've got clients asking questions. Oh, fantastic. Because nothing makes high-end branding projects run smoother than being labeled a manipulative abuser on Instagram between photos of cats and avocado toast. The harassment campaign was so coordinated, it felt like psychological warfare with Canva templates. They weren't just throwing mud. They were building an entire ecosystem of slander. Alice would drop some long-winded emotional monologue on Instagram, complete with blurry selfies and cryptic quotes like, he who smiles hides knives. Then Kathy, my personal PR gremlin, would immediately repost it to Facebook, adding helpful annotations like, we knew all along. Monsters hide behind kind faces. And Twitter? Oh, Twitter was the Thunderdome. Random girls I'd never met were quote-tweeting each other like it was a televised trial. Ladies, beware of Cooper M. Hashtag emotional abuse survivor hashtag predator alert. Because apparently, ending a toxic relationship now means you're one restraining order away from joining a Netflix docuseries. The hate was so over the top, it started backfiring. Some mutual friends actually began texting me things like, wait, this doesn't sound like you. Jason called me after Kathy dropped her latest novella-length Facebook rant. Dude, he said, half laughing, half worried. This is insane. Alice seemed sweet when I met her, but let's be honest, she was also 2 red flags away from being a maritime disaster. And Kathy? Kathy's been stirring drama since high school. I once watched her fake an asthma attack to get out of a group project. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just going to blow over. These people weren't venting. They were on a mission, and they weren't going to stop until someone made them. Time to bring in the professionals. After a week of watching these lunatics turn my name into a cautionary tale on every platform known to man, I decided I'd had enough. No more Mr. Nice X. I started documenting everything like I was prepping for a Supreme Court showdown. Every accusation, every post, every half-baked think piece Kathy posted after 3 glasses of wine and 1 too many true crime podcasts. Screenshots? Oh, I had them. DMs to the studio? Archived. Ruby's Facebook tirades about my predatory behavior. Saved with timestamps and dramatic flair. Kathy's 12-paragraph status updates that read like rejected monologues from a Lifetime movie. Framed, metaphorically speaking. Dylan, my ride or die, helped me organize it all like we were building a digital dossier on a small cult. This is textbook defamation, he said, scrolling through Kathy's Facebook timeline like he was grading it for grammar. They're not even trying to hide it. But the hardest part? The real kick in the teeth? It was watching my professional reputation get nuked in real time. Mark started getting calls from actual clients, asking if I was safe to work with. 2 projects got postponed indefinitely because some prospective clients decided to Google my name and stumbled across Kathy's creative writing exercises. Found a lawyer through my company's legal benefits. Name, Ron Jeremy. No, not that Ron Jeremy. This Ron looked like a hitman who moonlighted as a DJ at underground techno clubs. Aviators indoors, and a voice like gravel soaked in espresso. He had the swagger of someone who knew the law better than God knew the Bible. The man specialized in defamation and came with a Yelp page that read like war stories from grateful survivors. Ron saved my business, my marriage, and possibly my dog, one man wrote. Another just said, never lie about someone Ron's defending unless you want to meet Jesus. He took one look at the mess I brought him, screenshots, texts, flaming hot Facebook screeds, and leaned back in his chair like a predator that just spotted a limping deer. This, he said, steepling his fingers, is textbook defamation. False statements presented as fact, published to third parties, damaging your reputation. They've basically gift-wrapped a lawsuit for us. We're talking Macy's-level wrapping. We spent 2 hours going through every post, every comment, every smoke signal of idiocy. Ron took notes like he was planning a tactical airstrike. He even had a red pen. Occasionally, he'd stop, mutter, Jesus Christ, and shake his head like they were personally offending his IQ. This Kathy girl is particularly impressive, he said, flipping through her latest novella-length rant. She's managed to commit libel, harassment, and conspiracy in a single Facebook post. That takes talent. Honestly, I almost admire it. He said almost, for the record. The cease and desist letters went out like legal hand grenades. I imagined Kathy opening hers and screaming like a raccoon getting evicted from an attic. The replies? Oh man, they were more entertaining than a season finale. Kathy's came through Daddy's lawyer, which already told us everything. Apparently, she was expressing her opinion about abuse she'd witnessed firsthand. Translation: we don't know what defamation means, and we think the First Amendment is a magic force field. Ron read the letter out loud with the dramatic flair of a theater kid doing Shakespeare, then chuckled and said, they think this is a defense. It's adorable. Then came Alice's reply. Gold. You can't sue me for telling the truth, she'd written. This just proves how controlling you are. Even after getting legally smacked in the face, she still couldn't own a shred of responsibility. If gaslighting were an Olympic sport, she'd be biting a gold medal. And then there was Ruby. Ruby called Ron's office. Not emailed. Called. Screaming. Something about how I was re-victimizing her daughter, and how she'd countersue for harassment. Ron put the call on speaker just long enough for me to hear her voice shake with performative rage. Then he hit mute and said flatly, let me get this straight. She's threatening to sue us, for suing them, for lying about you. He leaned back, threw his arms up. That's like calling the cops on someone for calling the cops on you. We filed suit, $50,000 each, plus legal fees. 3 of them, 3 flaming dumpsters of entitlement. Once those papers got served, reality hit them like a freight train carrying consequences. Alice called me 18 times in one day. That's not a typo. 18. As in, the number of times a telemarketer would try to sell you extended car warranty before giving up. I didn't answer, obviously. I'm not a masochist. But I did let the voicemails pile up. They started off soft and weepy, like she was auditioning for a Hallmark movie. Cooper, can we please just talk like adults? I know I messed up. I was hurting. I didn't mean to ruin your life. Yeah, Alice. You just meant to ruin my reputation, my career, and my sanity. Totally different. The next voicemail sounded like a completely different person. You think this makes you a man? Suing me? Over some words. You're pathetic. Oh, and then 5 minutes later, she was crying again. I didn't mean what I said. Kathy twisted everything. Ruby was just trying to help. Please don't do this. Meanwhile, Kathy's social media went private faster than a politician's Twitter after a scandal. And Ruby? Ruby tried calling my mom to intervene. Imagine being a grown woman and thinking my mother would be your get-out-of-lawsuit-free card. She didn't expect my mom to reply with, maybe you should have raised your daughter to handle rejection like an adult instead of enabling her victim complex. God bless that woman. It's funny how it all turned into a silly misunderstanding once lawyers got involved. Like their entire smear campaign had just been a cute little oopsie. The depositions were where the real comedy started. Their stories fell apart like IKEA furniture built without screws. Kathy opened strong. Claimed she was just protecting women from a predator. Bold. Noble even. Ron. Legal god Ron. Leaned forward with that deadly calm of his and asked, can you define emotional abuse? She perked up. Of course. Emotional abuse is a pattern of behavior meant to manipulate, control, or harm someone psychologically. Textbook. Straight off Google. You could practically see the psychologytoday.com watermark behind her eyes. Excellent, Ron said. Now, what specific abusive behaviors did Mr. Davis commit? Kathy blinked like she'd been hit with a pop quiz. Well, he isolated her from her friends. Which friends? He didn't like us hanging out. Did he forbid her from seeing you? No, but he seemed annoyed. Do you have any messages or recordings showing him expressing this annoyance? Not exactly. We went on like that for 2 hours. She couldn't give a single concrete example. Just vibes. Hurt feelings. Vague accusations stacked on passive-aggressive assumptions. Basically, she weaponized bad breakup energy and tried to pass it off as a criminal case. Alice, meanwhile, broke down halfway through and admitted, verbatim, that she was hurt and wanted to hurt me back. Oh, so all of this, every post, message, late-night call to Kathy and Ruby, wasn't about justice or protection. It was revenge cosplay. Ruby had no answer when Ron asked why her supposedly terrified daughter had spent 3 weeks texting me to get back together. If she was scared of Mr. Davis, Ron asked, why was she begging him for another chance? Ruby squirmed like a lizard in a microwave. While they were flailing around in legal quicksand, my life was getting better. I was hitting the gym without getting grilled about who I was trying to impress. I was sleeping better. Logan wasn't picking up on any weird tension anymore, because the source of that tension had been legally yeeted out of our orbit. And then, finally, 6 months later, the lawsuit wrapped up. Alice settled. $35,000 plus a written apology that had to be posted on all her social media platforms for 30 consecutive days. And the apology had to clearly state, no vague wording, no slippery language, that her accusations of me being abusive, controlling, or threatening were completely untrue and made out of anger. I framed that post, printed it out, and everything. Hung it in my hallway, right next to my college diploma. Because honestly, it was the most honest thing she'd ever written. Reading that post get 0 likes and hundreds of comments calling her out was better than front row seats to someone else's public meltdown with popcorn. People weren't just dragging her, they were flame-throwing her into orbit. Maybe next time, don't accuse your ex of abuse because he wanted space, one girl wrote. Y'all, I gave her a place to crash in sophomore year. She lied about having cancer to get out of finals. This tracks, said another. Girl, we were rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. Someone added with a Tyra Banks gif that sent me into orbit. Even the girls who had hyped her up during the cancel Cooper Olympics were turning. They wanted answers. They wanted receipts. And all Alice had was digital glitter and regret. Kathy, radio silent. Probably gagged by her lawyer, or busy Googling how to delete yourself from the internet. Which, by the way, she tried. Her LinkedIn went private. Her Twitter evaporated. And her Facebook turned into a barren wasteland where only birthday reminders dared linger. You could practically hear the tumbleweeds blowing across her digital footprint. Her punishment? $48,000 plus legal fees and a legally binding vow of silence. She was forbidden, by court order, from mentioning me online or to anyone we both knew. It was glorious. The woman who once screamed into the void daily about the patriarchy suddenly lost her megaphone and got stuck whispering into a paper bag. And then there was Ruby. Sweet, deluded Ruby, who decided to take this flaming trash barge all the way to trial like it was the hill she wanted to die on. During her deposition, she called me a manipulative predator who'd traumatized her baby girl. I almost choked on my water. My lawyer, Ron, calmly slid a printout across the table. These are texts from your daughter, Mrs. Williams. 3 weeks of begging Cooper to take her back, including this one where she says, and I quote, I was just hurt and lashed out. I didn't mean to make things worse. Ruby blinked, like we'd just read the ending of a thriller she didn't see coming. Ron continued. Also attached are phone records showing you called his workplace 18 times in 3 days. I added, I was impressed by the commitment. Most telemarketers give up after 3. The judge was not amused. When Ruby launched into a speech about how the legal system was rigged against women and how abusers always got away with it, His Honor held up a hand like he was swatting a mosquito. Mrs. Williams, he said flatly, your daughter ended the relationship voluntarily. Mr. Miller chose not to rekindle it. Her response, and yours, was to launch a defamatory campaign based on claims you now admit were not verified. The evidence shows the defendant was the one being harassed, not the other way around. Boom. Roasted. Mic drop. The court ordered Ruby to pay the full $50,000 plus my legal fees, $73,000 in total, and the judge issued a public statement for good measure. His words? The claims against Mr. Miller were unfounded and malicious. And just like that, vindication had a face. Mine. Watching their lives implode was poetry in motion. Like if karma had a choreographer and a fog machine. Kathy lost her job when her nonprofit employer found out about the lawsuit. Turns out even the most progressive organizations draw the line at defamation and weaponized feminism. Who knew? She had to move back in with her parents, cue the world's tiniest violin, and deleted all her social media accounts. Apparently, the nonprofit sent out an internal memo afterward titled something like, Don't be a Kathy. Very inspirational. She went from self-righteous activist to cautionary tale in 6 months flat. I'd have clapped if it weren't so tragic. Ruby? Oh, Ruby got kicked out of her book club. Not because of the lawsuit per se, but because apparently she turned, where the crawdads sing, into a 4-hour monologue about trauma and conspiracy. Her husband, clearly tired of the unpaid theater, made her take anger management classes. I imagine her yelling at the instructor for gaslighting her breathing patterns. Alice. She had to move back home and, brace yourself, get a real job to pay the settlement. The horror. Her Instagram, once a curated feed of lattes, twirling sundresses, and pseudo-Buddhist quotes, went radio silent. Apparently, people recognized her from the lawsuit drama, and the boutique she worked at politely fired her before the Yelp reviews could explode. Her follower count dropped from 3,000 to around 200, which I'm 90% sure are either bots, confused uncles, or people waiting for her next breakdown. Watching that slow unfollow train was like watching dominoes fall in reverse, just as satisfying, way more ironic. Me? I was thriving. I used part of the settlement money for a vacation to Japan with Dylan. We spent 2 weeks exploring Tokyo, Kyoto, eating our body weight in ramen, and marveling at how not crazy the world felt outside my ex's radius of destruction. I posted pictures of us at the Shibuya crossing while they were trying to figure out how to spin their reputations back into something less radioactive. When I got back, I started dating again. Enter Kelly, an accountant. Mature. Independent. Had her own life, her own goals, her own furniture that she didn't post with hashtags like #BossBabeVibes. On our third date, I told her the whole saga. Alice, the lawsuit, the feminist smear campaign, the works. She blinked once and said, "Sounds like you dodged a bullet. Want dessert? Marry me." Kelly was everything Alice wasn't. She had her own apartment, her own friends, her own emotional regulation. We could spend entire evenings together without her needing a live stream of my inner monologue. We'd go out to dinner without someone filming our appetizers for TikTok, hang with friends without some paranoid postmortem, watch Netflix without being grilled on whether I found the female lead suspiciously attractive. Life was peaceful, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't feel like I had to keep looking over my shoulder to make sure I wasn't walking into another ambush. But here's the thing about people like that. They don't vanish. They don't retreat. They recalculate. Like malware. And just when you think they've finally found something else to ruin, boom. They come back for a sequel nobody asked for. Everything was perfect until March of the following year. Kelly and I had been dating 4 months, and it was everything a relationship should be. Easy, fun, supportive, and most importantly, drama-free. Weekends were spent hiking with my dog Logan, cooking elaborate dinners that required 3 kinds of cheese, and binge-watching shows without someone asking if I found the lead actress hotter than them. Kelly had her office. I had my animation projects. We both had our own friends, our own hobbies, our own lives. It was adulting on cheat mode. I genuinely thought Alice was ancient history, filed away in the lessons learned drawer next to never microwave eggs in the shell, and don't loan Dylan your car. Hadn't heard a peep from her since the lawsuit. Figured she'd moved on, gotten a therapist, maybe started a crystal collection. You know, like a normal person. I was so wrong. It started small. Weird stuff around Kelly. Her car got keyed in the mall parking lot. 3 perfect gashes like someone signed it with a knife. Then came random vandalism in her apartment complex. Someone egged the front door, left a dead bouquet in the mailbox. Stuff that could have easily been written off as local teenage bullshit, and at first, we did just that. I mean, it's a downtown lot, I said, examining the scratches. Could have been anyone. Or maybe your car insulted someone's Prius. Kelly gave me the look, half amused, half tired. It's a Corolla co-op. Nobody's jealous of my Corolla. Fair. The egging? Same logic. The complex had a few teenage gremlins who'd been caught tagging dumpsters with anime graffiti. Could have been them. Could have. But the timing? That was harder to ignore. The weirdness began right after Kelly and I went Facebook official. One photo of us holding hands at a pumpkin patch, and suddenly her life turned into the opening scene of a true crime documentary. Still, I didn't want to jump to conclusions. Correlation isn't causation. And I didn't want to be that guy who thinks every parking lot scratch is some conspiracy orchestrated by his ex-girlfriend, like she's auditioning for Revenge, the musical. Then came the Instagram DMs. Throwaway accounts with names like @TruthSeeker97 and @WatchHowKelly started messaging her. Random warnings like, "He seems nice, but you don't know the real him." And the always classic, "Ask him about his ex and why she needed therapy." Wow, Kelly said, handing me her phone. "Looks like someone's got a PhD in bitter." I read the message. "You're not the first girl he's love-bombed." I let out a low whistle. Well, at least they're staying on brand, I muttered. Kelly, bless her, didn't spiral. Didn't accuse me or start a reenactment of a reality TV meltdown. She just said, "Someone's trying to stir up drama. Thought you should know." I stared at the screen. Probably some random psycho, I offered weakly. But deep down, I was starting to suspect it wasn't just some internet troll who needed a nap and a better childhood. This had Alice's fingerprints all over it, self-righteous, passive-aggressive, and about as subtle as a fire alarm in a library. I told Kelly everything. The lawsuit, the Instagram saga, the boutique drama, Kathy and Ruby and the flaming wreckage they all left behind. Her response? Some people really need hobbies that don't involve stalking their exes. Preach, Kelly. We blocked the accounts. Reported them. I even joked about mailing Alice a Sudoku book and a wine subscription so she'd have something else to do. But it didn't work. New accounts kept popping up. New usernames, same toxic energy. And they were getting weirdly specific. Mentions of things Kelly and I had done. Specific dates. Private moments. Stuff only someone watching us would know. She lost it. Not in a dramatic, tearful, slow zoom kind of way. More like flipping the table in a Waffle House energy. All because Kelly posted a selfie. At a concert. Of us smiling. God forbid two people have a normal night out without triggering someone's full mental red wedding. We tagged the band. The venue. A couple friends. Nothing scandalous. Just digital proof that we weren't dead in a ditch. But apparently, for Alice, it was like watching the Zapruder film in real time. Within an hour, Kelly's phone started lighting up like a Christmas tree on meth. Unknown numbers. Blocked calls. She played one of the voicemails on speaker while I was brushing my teeth. You home-wrecking bitch. I spit foam into the sink and blinked at the mirror. Well, that escalated. Kelly paused it. This woman has lost her damn mind. Lost it, I said, wiping my mouth. She buried it in the woods and forgot where. The next voicemail sounded like it was recorded in the middle of a tequila blackout in a moving car. Alice was slurring, screaming about how Kelly stole me, how we were ruining lives, and how Kelly was going to pay. It would have been funny if it wasn't so felonious. Then came the texts. Unhinged, frothing at the mouth, full caps lock breakdowns. You have no idea what you've gotten into. He's mine and always will be. I know where you work, bitch. Kelly sat on the edge of the bed, pale, but trying to stay cool. This is insane. Who does this over an ex from 2 years ago? Someone who never got the memo that relationships end, I said, already scrolling to Detective Morrison's number. And that mutual breakup doesn't mean I get visitation rights to your future girlfriends. By morning, things had officially crossed from weird ex to Lifetime movie with commercials. Because Alice, in all her badly dyed glory, decided to show up at Kelly's office. Uninvited, unannounced, and looking like Fatal Attraction with a side of premeditation. Security footage showed her sitting in the parking lot for 3 hours. Just parked there, watching and observing like she was planning a heist. If she'd brought binoculars and a sandwich, she could have passed for a discount spy. But no, she was there figuring out Kelly's schedule like a stalker with a spreadsheet. The security guard told us later that she'd been walking around, asking about employee office timings, claiming to be Kelly's sister. Yeah, she said it was a surprise visit, the guy explained to Detective Morrison. Kelly blinked. My sister lives in Arizona. Yeah, I said. And she doesn't usually carry a manila folder labeled Evil EX Evidence. Apparently, Alice looked harmless enough that no one called the cops. Big eyes, sad expression, probably clutched a tote bag. The kind of woman who could ask, where's the pediatric oncology ward? And not, where's the best place to ambush your girlfriend? So, end of the day, Kelly walks out after a 9-hour day and not enough coffee. And who's waiting by her car like a boss-level side quest? Alice. Kelly told me later. The second I saw her, I started recording. Just in case. Smart woman. Kickboxing since college. Girl can break boards. And apparently, lunatics. Alice launched right into her one-woman play. You don't know him, she said, stepping in front of Kelly like a Dollar Tree Cassandra. He seems perfect at first, but he'll destroy you like he destroyed me. Kelly didn't flinch. Calm as ever, still recording. Step away from my car. I'm trying to help you. I don't want your help. I want you gone. That's when Alice made her big mistake, grabbing Kelly's arm. Now, if you've ever watched a kung fu movie where the bad guy underestimates the librarian-looking woman, yeah, Kelly twisted out of her grip so fast it looked choreographed. Then, bam, she punched Alice square in the nose. Clean, sharp, no hesitation. Years of kickboxing and exactly zero tolerance for stalker exes. Alice staggered back, eyes wide, nose gushing, making that wounded goose noise that's halfway between a sob and a yelp. You hit me, she screeched, clutching her face. You grabbed me, Kelly shot back. Calm, ice cold. Next time, I aim lower. Then she shouted for security. Alice froze. You could practically hear the Windows error sound in her brain. Then she ran, like full-on cartoon scramble and dash. Sprinted like she'd just realized she left the oven on, her nose bleeding and her dignity trailing 6 feet behind her. But it was too late. Kelly had her license plate. She had the video. Kelly's office had security footage of the whole thing. Alice stalking, confronting, grabbing, getting beat up, and fleeing like a cartoon villain caught mid-scheme. Police showed up, and Detective Morrison personally handled it. "You're under arrest," he said, deadpan as ever. Violation of a restraining order, stalking, harassment, and assault. Alice went full meltdown mode. Picture a kettle with personality disorders. "She's lying. I'm the victim. He ruined my life," she shrieked as they cuffed her. "Someone needs to know the truth." Yeah, and someone needed to sedate her. But here's where it gets juicy. They searched her car. And jackpot. Inside, they found a folder. Thick, organized, psychotically detailed. Printed screenshots of my social media. Kelly's work schedule. Maps of our apartments. And, oh yes, a notebook full of plans. Plans to expose Cooper's true nature by contacting Kelly's co-workers, my studio boss, friends, and family. She'd been conducting surveillance for weeks. Like some dollar store version of Veronica Mars. I'm talking full-blown notebooks, time-stamped photos, a literal map with pins in it. If she'd put this much effort into a job, she'd be CEO by now. Turns out, Alice wasn't just obsessing in silence. Nope. She called Kelly's office pretending to be a concerned citizen, claiming I was a stalker. Staged confrontations at my gym, rehearsed like a bad improv troupe with one cast member. This wasn't just some impulsive meltdown. It was premeditated stalking with a side of conspiracy to commit harassment. During the arraignment, Alice's lawyer did the classic Hail Mary. "She's not a criminal, Your Honor. She's just mentally unwell." The judge leaned forward, gave him that seriously face, and said something I'll never forget. "This level of planning and surveillance suggests a calculated campaign, not impulsive behavior driven by mental illness." Translation? Nice try, counselor, but your client's nuts and malicious. Alice got 6 months in jail, 2 years probation, mandatory therapy, community service, and a permanent restraining order that covered both me and Kelly. Honestly, it was the most productive thing Alice had done in her entire life. Oh, and surprise subplot. Kathy got charged as an accessory. Apparently, cheering on stalking via text like it's a football game counts. Who knew? The prosecution read messages like, "Yes, Queen, catch that at the gym and record it." Asterisk out loud in court. Even the stenographer winced. Now Ruby. Ruby actually showed a little human decency for once. She publicly apologized and even offered to cover Kelly's therapy. I didn't expect it, but I respected it. The aftermath. Alice's mugshot made the rounds on social media, and I swear, I saw it with the caption, "Crazy Ex Alert. Proceed with holy water." The girl who once lived for Instagram validation had become a cautionary tale with a number and a jumpsuit. Kelly and I, we're still together, stronger than ever. Going through that mess showed me exactly what kind of woman she is. Resilient, grounded, doesn't fall apart or start blaming me for the actions of some lunatic in yoga pants. Ruby texted me one last time. "I hope someday you can forgive our family." I replied, "Focus on your daughter, not me." Then I blocked her again. Felt like the emotional equivalent of a mic drop. Final score? Alice. Criminal record, jail time, and a reputation that follows her like a fart in an elevator. Me? I got a peaceful life, an amazing girlfriend, and stronger friendships than ever. Plus, Logan, my dog, approved of Kelly from day one. And honestly, that dog's got better judgment than half the people I know. Moral of the story? Don't negotiate with emotional terrorists, even if they're hot and know how to cry on command. Never let anyone make you choose between them and your self-respect. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.